And the SAMR model links how you use a technology to the outcomes for students. If you use a technology at what is called the substitution level, so that you're essentially using it to replace an older technology and doing exactly the same sort of things that you were doing in your classroom before with the old technology, well, this may be useful. It may set the stage for future developments, but it will not in any way, shape, or form significantly impact student outcomes. A second tier is then the augmentation tier. And in the augmentation tier, now we start to say, well, can we at least use the technology to enhance how the students were carrying out tasks in the past before? So that now we're not saying that they're carrying them out exactly the same way they were doing them before. Now they're using certain features of the technology to make the task be accomplished in a more efficient fashion, in perhaps a more informative fashion for the student, in a swifter fashion, but overall the task remains the same. This will introduce small, noticeable, but still small improvements for students. The next level is the modification level. At the modification level, we start to say, well, wait a second. I'm sure that there were educational goals that you always wanted to attempt, accomplish, reach with your students that you couldn't have before. Now we can use the technology to modify the tasks that you were doing before with the student so that now they're at heart, the heart of the task remains the same. But important aspects have been modified so that the student can accomplish new goals that they could not have accomplished before. If the task before was, say, to write an essay individually, now we might be talking about writing an essay that is jointly critiqued by an audience of the student peers, so that they get feedback in ways they couldn't have before with edit cycles that are richer than what they had before. Or before, if they were doing set mathematical problems, now we're talking about using tools that allow the students to still tackle set mathematical problems, but get into reaches of math that would previously have been considered too complex for them to tackle, where the computer can handle some of the pencil pushing that's difficult or impossible for the student to do. At this level, we see significant improvements in student outcomes, the sort of things that you want your students to do. But we can go a level further. We can go a step further. And that step further is the redefinition level. And at the redefinition level, what we have now is what happens when we say, well, what happens if we replace part or all of the old tasks with new tasks that are uniquely made possible by the new technology that allow us to accomplish educational, pedagogical goals that we never could have before, we never thought we would be able to reach before. So maybe now we take that essay we were writing before, and now we say, well, I'd like the students instead to tackle conveying deep analytical thought in other media. So now perhaps they're doing digital video storytelling as their way of responding to a piece instead of writing an essay. And furthermore, they could become mentors to other students, because if I put a certain criterion of quality on these pieces that the students are producing, well, they could form the background for other students to learn from them. So we start reaching into new areas, new domains that we couldn't have reached before. At this level, the redefinition level, we start to see dramatic improvements in student outcomes. This is the level at which your students who were failing are now successful. And your students who were already successful are going places you've never seen students go before.